Welcome back to What You Missed, a video game news show where I discuss articles that occurred within days to a week ago that you may have missed that are important to the video game industry and possibly to you. So the inevitable has happened, and the SNES Classic Edition has been announced and dated, but an extreme shocker has occurred, and Star Fox 2, the previously unreleased SNES title in favor of developing Star Fox 64 instead, was added to the collection. So Nintendo has announced the Super NES Classic Edition, and announced that it will be released September 29th, right before Thanksgiving and Christmas. What a perfect date to give enough time to purchase as a Christmas present. This is absolutely one of the best moves Nintendo can do. In the suggested retail price of $79.99 for the United States, and I'm sorry Australia, it's going to be $120 for you, and $79.99 in the European poundage for the UK. So the follow-up to the Classic NES Edition is going to be the SNES Classic Edition. This game system is going to really shine. If the predecessor NES Classic was any type of indication, I think the SNES Classic will either do equally well or better than the NES one. So the full list of games is as follows, and it's less than what the previous NES Classic was, but these games are very hardy and will take you a long time to complete. So the first one is Contra 3: The Alien Wars, Donkey Kong Country, Earthbound, Final Fantasy 3, F-Zero, Kirby Superstar, Kirby's Dream Course, The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, Mega Man X, Secret of Mana, Star Fox and Star Fox 2, Street Fighter 2 Turbo Hyper Fighting, Super Castlevania 4, Super Ghouls and Ghosts, Super Mario Kart, Super Mario RPG, Legend of the Seven Stars, Super Mario World, Super Metroid, Super Punch-Out, and Yoshi's Island. Now there's plenty of other games that I could have wished were on this, like Donkey Kong Country 2, Donkey Kong Country 3, as well as Mega Man X2 and Mega Man X3, but saying that is kind of lowering the value of this. This game console is going to be awesome. But one of the biggest things that I'm confused about is why Chrono Trigger isn't on here, if Secret of Mana is. That's strange to me, as well as Secret of Evermore. But I'm not going to complain that much. Earthbound's on here, so that's one half of my two favorite games ever created. Yes, Chrono Trigger and Earthbound are up there as number 1 and number 2, and Pokemon is in a close third. I promise you. Intertwining these three games are exactly what I absolutely love from video games. But I think the biggest hitters here are the main Nintendo game series here. I noticed that there's a lot of Capcom games like Super Ghouls and Ghosts, as well as Street Fighter 2 Turbo Hyper Fighting, and Mega Man X. And I've noticed that there's Konami games as well, like Super Castlevania 4, as well as Contra 3 The Alien Wars. So I think it's interesting how those are the third-party games that have come out here, along with Square Enix's titles as Final Fantasy 3 and Secret of Mana. A lot of the other companies that had games produced in the 90s were bought up, or they went bankrupt and belly up and just don't exist anymore. So I don't even think Nintendo could have reached out to them, or they wouldn't have agreed to allow their IPs and their properties to be put on the system in this way. So I understand why there's a limitation on these games, but I wanted to emphasize a few games that are very important here, like Final Fantasy 3, Earthbound being one of the biggest titles and one of the best sellers here, Donkey Kong Country, as Nintendo still owns Donkey Kong and the rights to that. Rare was bought by Microsoft. And then, of course, you have Zelda: Link to the Past. That's a very lengthy game. Secret of Mana is a very lengthy game. And you have the Super Mario RPG, The Legend of the Seven Stars, which is an outstandingly long game. That's an excellent title to play. And if you really enjoyed Paper Mario in any way, shape, or form, before the whole action RPG aspects and more the RPG aspects of Thousand Year Door and original Paper Mario, you'll absolutely love Mario RPG. Yoshi's Island is another excellent title that's on there that'll take you quite a bit of time to 100% and get 100 in every level. And then you have Super Metroid also, which can be sped run in under 2 hours, but if you take your time, it'll take you 5 to 6 hours. Pretty decent titles here. Super Mario Kart, definitely an excellent co-op game. Super Mario World, again, a nice turn-based, take turns, two-player game. Really great stuff. Street Fighter 2, great fighting game. Anyone would be satisfied with that. But now, the final, biggest one that is going to be the strangest release is Star Fox 2. Now, I have an article on that where the programmer, Star Fox's 2's programmer, was a bit surprised about this as its inclusion is on the SNES Classic. This individual's name is Dylan Kolfberg, and I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce that right. So, all a big fantastic surprise, awesome news. I think it is the main selling point of the new SNES Classic that the original Star Fox is finally getting a re-release. When they were asking him, they said, do you know whether the game will be identical to the one that you made all of those years ago, or will it be changed in some way? I believe the game was only 95% complete when you finished working on it, but what was left in the 5% to do? Were you involved in any of the new tweaks? I have no idea, he responded with, but we have mastered it up completely back in the day. Internationally too, I presume it will be that mastered version. It is one of those games that got fully completed, but due to the market changes was shelved. And that's what I said before. The Nintendo 64 was coming out and they wanted to focus on the new 64 rather than releasing this game way late in the lifespan, which is kind of silly to think about because Yoshi's Island was released way late in the Super Nintendo's lifespan, yet it was still released in one of the best games ever created. I recall that when the Wii U Star Fox came out, you mentioned that it used some ideas that were taken from Star Fox 2. What were these features? Are they implemented differently in Star Fox 2? And responded with, Star Fox Command uses the ideas from Star Fox 2, and even the N64 version takes a few things from it too. I mean, the gameplay is really quite different and unique. Each time you play, you get a different storyline, and it's more encounter and puzzle based. There are over 100 different scenarios, I seem to recall. And this interview goes on for quite a bit. You can read it. I'm not going to go through all of the questions, but I have seen videos and playthroughs, and you can even download the ROM of Star Fox 2, but it wasn't complete. It wasn't the completed ROM. Like they said, it was 95% complete, and you could technically play through it, but it'll be interesting to see how different it was and how cleaned up it was for this release for the SNES Classic. I know Nintendo doesn't do things halfway a lot of the time, so I'm sure they're going to make sure that this works out really good. So Nintendo says they are going to be producing significantly more SNES Classic editions than NES Classic editions. There's not much to talk about this. The company's long-term efforts at this time are instead focused on supporting the Nintendo Switch and Nintendo 3DS, according to the company statement when they were talking about the NES Classic. But the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, the Super Nintendo Classic Edition, is currently planned to ship September 29th until the end of calendar year 2017. At this time, we have nothing more to announce regarding the possible shipments, other than the fact that they're going to be ramping up more production of this. But make sure to get it by the end of 2017, because they're clearly going to stop production at the end of 2017. So I think that's great, these little systems that come out in short bursts, but I think they need a lot more so that they don't get scalped and sold for hundreds of dollars more. But whatever, if they get sold and they're hacked and they have every SNES game on it, well, hey, I'm down with that. Nintendo has confirmed also that the SNES's cord controller length is longer than the NES Classics. It is about 2 feet longer, so it's going to be 5 feet long. If you don't know how long 5 feet is, just think about how tall a standard adult person is. Most men are around 5 feet to 6 feet, so there you go. And you can kind of make the measurement of that, or you can look it up, or you can get yourself a yardstick and do the math yourself, but it's significantly longer than the NES Classics, which is really important. And the Nintendo Super FAMICOM Mini is a little bit different and has other games for Japan. So if you know Japanese, or you know how to change the languages, or you can program in some way, shape, or form, the Super Famicom is coming out with a few different games. It gives up Super Castlevania 4, Super Punch-Out, Kirby's Dream Course, and Earthbound, and replaces them with the Legend of the Mystic Ninja, known as Ganbare Goemon. I can't pronounce half of these things, alright? I'm just gonna pop it on the screen, and you can go ahead and look at it yourself. But Fire Emblem, The Mystery of the Emblem, is one of the games that was replaced, and I know that'll kind of make a lot of fans a little bit salty, and they're gonna want that on the English version, but they clearly didn't want to translate the ROM for us, so there you go. So that's all the news I do have to say about the SNES Classic. I am beyond excited. I bought my NES Classic hacked off of eBay for about $200. It's a really good investment. I've enjoyed it. I play the games with my daughter. I think it's one of the the best investments I could ever have possibly made, and I'm curious about how Nintendo is going to go about preventing people from hacking the SNES Classic. I know that there's not going to be enough memory to put all of the SNES ROMs, despite how small they are, onto that. The NES ROMs compared to the SNES ROMs, the SNES is like 4 to 8 times bigger, and I know that's still not a lot when you think about it. Like 16 megabytes isn't a lot, 4 megabytes isn't a lot, but for whatever they're going to put on the SNES, I think the biggest limitation is going to be the memory, and that's going to prevent people from inherently hacking it without adding anything to it. I think some hackers are going to have to mod in some SD card or a chip of some kind to put more ROMs onto it, and that's going to be an extra step that a lot of modders and hackers aren't going to do to sell these systems at a price hike on eBay. So that's all I have to say, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys enjoyed this story. I've been your host, Protomario. I'm signing out. As always, good gaming, God bless, and please like and share this with every Nintendo fan, gaming fan. We're all gamers here. I'm quite sure many people who own Sonys and Xboxes would absolutely love an SNES Classic as well. So thanks for watching.